Hey, welcome back. So this is part 3 of our sci-fi box tutorial. So in this tutorial, let's grab our low poly sci-fi box that we made and unwrapped and simply bring it into Substance Painter for some fun, for some magic, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm just simply select my box, and as I did that, you could see on the right in the channel box, I have all this stuff, all this history from building our mesh, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say clear history. That clears all of this out and keeps Maya nice and clean and organized. So if you don't have history button, that could be found under edit, delete by type, history. And that's just good practice to, whenever you get to the point where you no longer need to undo, to clear your history, to keep it nice and clean. Another thing you can do is in the outliner, you could see that your mesh is right there. You can double click on it and call it whatever you like, just to keep things organized as well. If you don't see the outliner tab, that is actually under Windows Outliner, so keep that in mind. And the only other thing I want to mention is that we already assigned a material to this in our Hypershade in our previous lesson. So mine is called Sci-Fi Energy Box, and this is what it's actually going to show up as in Substance Painter as well. And if we wanted to, we can actually go underscore MAT to tell us that this is the name of our material. All right, so let's go ahead and select our sci-fi box, go to File, Export, and I'm actually going to call it sci-fi box underscore low and say export. For this tutorial, we're not going to build the high version one. There's no need. Let's just keep it nice and simple. So now let's hop into Substance Painter and let's go ahead and import our box. I'm going to say File, New, and I'm going to select my template as, let's see, I'm going to set it as metallic roughness is fine, and we can change this at any moment. I'm going to set this to 2048 or 2K map, and the normal map, I could just say OpenGL. So other than that, everything, it should be fine. And let's go ahead and select our mesh, right? And say OK. All right, so here it is. This is how it comes in. We can kind of take a look and see how it's looking. And at this point, if you wanted to change anything, this would probably be the best time to do it. You can at any point do it even after you painted your object, but this is just good practice to maybe tweak if something looks strange or didn't come in right. For example, you know, if you wanted to, if you didn't like that this is kind of boxy looking up here, this round piece, we can actually fix that and import our mesh in Substance Painter. So to do that, let's go ahead and hop back into Maya. And the reason I'm showing this is because I want to show the fact that you can jump back and forth at any point. So it's just cool practice. So I'm going to go to Faces, and I'm going to select all of these guys here and here. And what I'm going to do now is go to Mesh Display and say Soft Edges. And you can see how that really changed how my round element looks up here, right? So next I can go to Edges, and let's say we just want to select the edges. And let's say I want to keep those nice and sharp. So to do that, I'm going to go back to Mesh Display and say Hard Edges. All right, let's take a look. And it's kind of hard to see here because I have my wireframe turned on, but you get the idea. And we could have even done the same thing here as well if we thought that looks a little bit too square. We could do that too. We can go to Soften Edges and just see how that changes. let's grab this edge and just the top one. I'm just gonna grab the top edge and make that a hard edge. So it's nice and flat. And now if we take a look, you can see how this is now really smooth, and even this part is kind of smooth. So you might like it, you might not like it, but that's one way to control your edges. You can actually alter the shape quite dramatically. I kind of like this bottom part to be nice and sharp. So I'm just going to take one more second to select all of these, and I'm not going to do that on the bottom because I can just turn on my symmetry on the Y, and that will automatically select those as well for me. And now I can just say hard edges. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. I'm happier with this result. All right, so now let's go ahead and grab this guy and override our other one, our other low poly. Go back into Substance Painter. And now what we need to do is just swap this guy for the other guy, right? And to do that, it's really easy. All you do is you go to Edit, Project Configuration, and at any point, again, even after you painted this thing, you can replace it with a new updated mesh. Pretty easy. So you just say Select, grab your updated mesh, and watch what happens right up there. When I say OK, you could see how that was fixed immediately with the new version. So that's really cool. All right, so let's have a little fun. So I would like to paint this in some sort of dark metallic look. So before we begin painting, the very first thing you want to do is you want to generate some baked mesh for your object. So let's go ahead and go into Bake Mesh Maps. And since we don't have a high poly version, I'm just going to simply say use low poly mesh as a high poly, and I'm going to switch it to 2048, and I'm not going to touch anything else and just simply say bake. And just wait a few seconds. It's going to run and generate some maps for us. All right, I'm going to say OK, and this is what it looks like using its own low poly mesh as to bake all of our maps. And I think that looks pretty cool, right? We don't really need anything more than this. And pay attention up here in your texture set. This is the name of the material that we gave in Maya. So this is the name that shows up. So for example, if this mesh was built with a couple other elements, for example, you know, maybe it had some things that were like something external, like maybe it was inside a box, right? So if this was inside a box, you could have assigned the material to that box and called it box underscore MAT, and then you would have had two materials here when you exported your mesh. And that's just a cool way to bring in complex objects that have multiple materials. So if you have a character, for example, you can have, you know, skin material and then clothes material and boots and weapons, and each one would be like a separate set. But for this is really simple. We just have one. All right, so let's go to Smart Materials, and let's decide what do we want our box to look like. So I kind of want mine to be metal, so I'm just gonna say Steel Dark, or I like this one right here, Steel Dark Aged. I think that looks pretty cool. So I'm just gonna take it and drag it either onto my object or into the layers. Either one, doesn't really matter. And boom, voila, it looks really, really cool with just a simple drag. I think that looks pretty cool. If you hold down the Shift key and the right mouse button, you can change the lights and kind of take a look. I think that looks really cool. One fun thing we can do right away is let's say we want to kind of wear down some of these edges. So right now you can see the metal covers everything the same, right? Nothing is kind of worn down. So let's create kind of highlights to our sci-fi box. It's going to give us a little bit more stylistic look. So to do that, first I'm going to open it, actually go to metal, right, the base of our color, and I'm going to right click and say add a generator. All right, once we did that, you could see that it created a new layer called generator, and that's empty. So in the properties, I need to click on my generator, and what I want to do is select this guy right here, metal edges. Okay, so that gave us these cool metal edges that we can control. We can drag them and make them larger or smaller. We can control the contrast, grunge amount. Lots of cool options, right? The edge smoothness. And let's say I don't want to control anything except the color, right? Now, if you click on the metal edge where you could see the difference. I think that looks really cool. You could see how it kind of added highlights to our mesh. And that's exactly what I was looking for. Something really simple. All right, so let's say I'm happy with this, and now I want to maybe paint a few of these elements. So maybe some of these extruded parts could be different color than the actual metal. So let's go ahead and decide what we want to choose for that. Let's say I like this steel paint, right? I'm gonna grab it and drag it onto my object. And when I've done that, it's going to kind of cover the entire thing, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and say black mask. And I'm going to go to polygon fill and do a couple things. Let's do 3D and 2D view. And if you hold on the Alt or Option and middle mouse button, you can kind of get it in a better position. And let's see. So what we want to do is we want to use these tools to kind of tell Substance Painter which parts of this mesh we want orange, right? So I'm gonna select this guy right here, polygon fill, and let's just randomly click on a couple to kind of begin figuring out which elements we want to be orange. As we do that, we could see on the right side, it's actually painting this for us, right? So if I click here, you could see it's being highlighted there, and so on. So let's say I want these to be orange as well. I'm just kind of randomly just grabbing it, just enough for me to know where they are on my 2D map, right? And it's kind of hard to see with all of this dark metal stuff, so I'm going to turn that off for a second. And even if we needed to, we can hold down the Shift key and kind of play with the lights as well. All right. So let's say, let's zoom in, and on the right side in the UV view, let's go ahead and kind of clean this up. I'm just going to click on all the elements that I would like to be orange. You can even click and drag if you wanted to do it faster. So I can click and select all of these at the same time. I can do the same here and here. And let's go ahead and do the same thing here. I think that looks really cool. Let's turn this back on and kind of take a look. Looks pretty sweet. If we wanted to, we can open this up and maybe change our orange. Maybe you wanted a different color. Maybe you want yellow or green. Just play around and figure out what you would like on your end. I'm kind of liking this blue. Maybe a little more faded. Kind of something like that I think looks kind of cool. Maybe go to dirt, change the color of the dirt. I'm going to go to blue and make it a little bit darker. So as you click on each one, you can control in the properties all the settings. So you just have to take the time to kind of play around and see what you like. So I think this looks really cool. Next, I would like to make all of these things inside to be lit, like with energy. And to do that, we need to add a emission channel. So let's add an emission channel in our texture set. So I'm going to go to plus and say emissive, right? And then once we've done that, we can go ahead and create a new layer, a new fill layer, and make sure it is located above these two materials. So above our dark steel and above the orange, right? The new orange that we did. So I'm going to put it right on top here, and I'm going to call this glowing energy, right? And all I want to do is I'm going to turn off all the materials except for the emissive. And if we go to our other materials, we can make sure that the emissive is turned off, which it should be. But if it's not, you can just open these up and look, and you can see it's grayed out, right? So you want to make sure it's kind of grayed out on all of these different, so right there it's grayed out as well. So it should be grayed out, but sometimes it does turn on, so just make sure that it's off. The only place we want it on is on our emissive new layer right here, right? So let's decide what color we would like this glowing to be. So I would like it to be maybe kind of a orangey red glowing, so something like that. So next I'm going to right click and say add a black mask, and let's tell Substance Painter which parts of our model we want to glow. So to do that, I'm going to go back to this button here, polygon fill, and let's go ahead and simply click on a couple of these. So once we do that, we can see how it's affecting our 2D texture map. So I know that I want that to be glowing as well. Maybe inside the triangle. That does them all, right? Because our triangles are overlapping in our texture map. And let's go ahead and also select this. I would like that to glow. And maybe the actual bars too inside. So something like that is really cool. Now this white looks, obviously something is wrong because this is too bright. So it looks like the emissive channel is interfering with our metal. So that's what I was trying to tell you earlier. Let's figure out how that's happening. So I need to go to my metal edgeware, and I can see that right there my emissive got turned on. So I'm going to turn that off, and you can see the difference, right? Let's double check this as well. And turn it off here. All right, so I think that looks really cool. Now obviously the one thing you might say is, hey, it's not really glowing. So to do that, let's change a couple things. So I'm going to go to shader settings, and let's go ahead and turn our emissive intensity up to like 6.9, and then go to display settings, turn our shadows on. I'm going to turn the shadows on to maybe 80, and then scroll down to post effects, and let's turn this on. I'm going to turn my post effects on. I would like to turn the vignette on to like 0.75 and turn my glare on and turn that to bloom. So as you can see, that is the orangey red I was looking for. So now my box kind of has this really cool glow, and if I hold on the shift and the right mouse button, you can change the light and the shadows and see how all of that is interacting together. So I think that looks really really nice. If you wanted to change the glow inside to be some other color, you can certainly do that really easy. So let's say you think this is too much orange. Let's create the middle part some other color. So all I need to do is right click and say duplicate. I'm going to right click on my newly created layer and just simply say remove mask and apply a new black mask. Okay. Now once I've done that, I can actually turn off my other glow, and let's go ahead and choose our polygon fill again and select our box here as we've done before. But this time we can go inside our color and let's change the color of the energy inside to some other color. Maybe green. Green looks really awesome. Or blue. Maybe blue complements like this blue metal a little bit. And let's turn this other color back on. So now we have two different glowing emitting two different, glowing effects going on at the same time, which is really cool, right? I think that looks pretty sweet. So as you can see, you can just keep building layers upon layers and keep adding new effects to this and spend as much time as you want. But I just want to give you kind of a quick run through of how fun and simple it is to jump into Substance Painter and just start painting. If you wanted to create some panels or buttons, that's really easy to do as well. All you have to do is create a new layer, and let's call this normal detail. Our normal map will be used for this trick, and let's go and switch this to 3D view. It's just good practice to jump between 3D view and 2D view, and I just usually just use the button up here, but there's a shortcut for that as well if you want to learn. But anyway, so let's go and figure out how we can stamp a couple of these things. Maybe you want to add some scratches and beat this up a little bit. So let's do that. I'm gonna go to my alpha, and let's choose something like maybe this thing right here, leak spread, at least on mine. Some of these alphas I actually brought in and imported. If you don't have many of these, that's okay. Just grab anyone you see, and it's really simple to find them online and import a huge library of many different alphas. The point of this is just I want to show you how fun and easy it is to actually use it. So I'm just going to double click on this one. When I double click on it, you can see it showed up right there. And you can also see my round brush changed to that alpha, right? So then I can control the size of it. It's right there. And what I want to do is I don't want it to be a color or roughness or even a metal. All I want is normal and height. And let's go ahead and make the scratch to be indented. So I'm going to go into the left into the negative space and just simply click on my object, right? When you click on it, you could see how, you can even do it on the edge, how it begins to kind of indent our mesh. And very carefully not to overdo it. The trick I found is not to do too much. Just do a little bit. And of course you can change the size of it. And let's say you didn't like that, just undo it and redo it. So beat this thing up a little bit, just to add maybe a little more realism. Again, just a matter of preference. At any point, if you think that maybe that's too much and it's too deep, right? Because we set this to -0.7, you can adjust it very easily by just going to our drop down and choosing height and just turning the opacity down. And you can see how you can control how strong your scratches are. So let's say I like mine at like, I don't know, 25. So it's just a little bit. So as you continue create more and more detail, make sure you just create new layers over so you have full control. And it's really nice because in Substance Painter at any point you can go inside each layer and change everything from the very beginning. You can change your metal base color to you know, to the glowing emission colors and scratches. So everything always stays intact and is very easily modified and changed. So all right, so thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this useful and found it fun. And if you would like to see more, please subscribe and we'll stay in touch. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.